Brian, Chelsea 0, Manchester City 1. It was I'd say flat 40 minutes, and after that it was 100 miles an hour. City got going eventually, as they generally do.
Yeah, it took them a long time. They were used to seeing Manchester City dominating possession against almost every opposition. The likes of Liverpool would take them on now and again, but not too many teams have taken them on. Teams are generally prepared to play the counter-attack and deep defence and work from there. But tonight, Chelsea had a bit of a go, but it was more that Manchester City weren't at their best. It was a strange kind of a line-up with Cancelo on the right hand side. He was almost in an attacking outside right position. Walker as the right side, the centre half of John Stones and Nathan Ake on the left side. Sometimes it looked like it was a three and Foden was the left wing back, but it was hard to know exactly where they were positionally, what the manager had asked them to do. But there was no great fluency to the game in the first half from a Man City point of view. Chelsea were the more impressive team, even though they had to put up with a couple of early changes. They were upset their rhythm slightly with Sterling going off so early. I thought that didn't help them at all. Pulisic as well, but they dealt with that quite well. But then we saw Manchester City, the real Manchester City, I'd say, early second half, changes at half time had a major impact. No messing about. I wasn't surprised he made those changes at half time. I was just surprised at the personnel. I thought it would be either Cancelo or Walker he'd take off, but he took both of them off, and it made a difference. They were the better of those changes. Akanji coming into defence had an impact, and the other changes that he made as the game went on, obviously Mahrez and Grealish come into the game as well. They had a big impact on it.
Not the first time, either since the World Cup or in the weeks before the World Cup, where it didn't feel like we were seeing the real Manchester City. There was a sloppiness to Kevin De Bruyne again tonight that was there against Everton at the weekend. What is it that's happening that we're not seeing the real Manchester City to the consistency that we've seen over previous seasons?
Well, it's hard to analyse that and be succinct about the reason for that. Obviously, there was a fair disruption to the squad with so many of their players being away at the World Cup. De Bruyne didn't have a particularly good time. Obviously, he would have brought a fair bit of criticism on the team by saying in advance of it appears that he said that the team was too old to win it, and the performances at the competition were majorly disappointing, I think, given that it was considered the golden generation. That's kind of the end of them, and it proved to be the end of Martinez too, the manager. But not just him, I think the fact, Alvarez was involved tonight and he had a great World Cup, still waiting on him to play, but several of the other players at the World Cup, I think,
because we were at the Etihad for the match against Manchester United, where it was as good as I've ever seen any team play in the Premier League, and I think we all came away going it was Grealish's best performance. Foden scores a hat-trick, Haaland scores a hat-trick, that they were just going to steamroll everybody since then. And they've never got anywhere near that level.
Yeah,
in the
well, they haven't dropped. They've
lost.
They've lost a couple of games in the league. Points wise, I think the manager Pep has been having a bit of fun in recent days, saying it looks like Arsenal might hit around 100 points the way they're going, and I think he's kind of playing a bit of mind games, putting her up to them a bit. But if you look at their own points, I said to you before the game today, 36 points is not a bad total from 16. Most teams, most managers, if you have 36 points, you're averaging over 2.2 a game. That's league winning form. The problem is that just Arsenal have been ahead of that. They've only played 2 games that they haven't won. Arsenal, 1 loss to Manchester United and 2 draws, isn't it? Yeah, they've had 2 draws. But you look at City, they've not too badly at all, but they haven't been at that level that we saw. Now, I'd say there was a fair amount of disruption around the whole World Cup. The players been absent for so long and tough to get back into the rhythm. Everton the weekend fought like demons to hang on to point. There was an extraordinary goal by Demarai Gray, the counter-attack. We got a bit of time, made time, stuck her in the far corner. Then they just couldn't break them down. Everton dug in. But the movement and rotation and quality of the passing hasn't been at the level. I said to you early before the game even that the Haaland one is interesting because they've become a bit more predictable now in their movement and in their positional play because of Haaland's presence. He's only ever in the centre forward position, whereas previously we used to watch Manchester United, and anybody could appear in the centre forward position, even the fullbacks, even Walker, even Cancelo. But certainly those attacking players, the likes of Bernardo Silva, Gundogan arriving late, Mahrez coming in off the flank, Foden from the flank, whoever will happen to be around, and maybe that's helped the opposition a little bit. They can focus on the centre forward.
And a team like Chelsea tonight, who have such experience at the back, Thiago Silva and Koulibaly were excellent throughout the game. Like I know you don't want to create any headlines, and nobody wants to say like Haaland hasn't been an unbelievable signing and may not be the best striker in the world. But tonight, Manchester City had a lot of possession around the Chelsea area. Is that where Haaland is the difference? That now if you mark Haaland, that no likelihood Bernardo Silva's not going to make that run he might make. Or
Well, when you look at with the evidence is there, that's the case. I mean, if he scored 21 goals before tonight, and I think the top scoring player after that is on 3 or 4, it would suggest that all the action is with Haaland around the box and the opposition. And we saw Everton at the weekend where Godfrey, who hasn't had a great career by any means at Everton, his job was concentrated on probably upsetting Haaland to a degree. Haaland took the goal very well, the cutback, and he's in space, he took it in there. But aside from that, Godfrey did very well. He upset him, it seemed, physically and mentally by sticking close to him, by being aggressive to him, and Haaland reacted to that. And maybe that's, I mean, the two lads tonight didn't go that way. They went on using their experience and their guile to outplay him. Certainly the service to him wasn't as good. But, this could be just a period for Manchester City where it hasn't started flowing for them yet, and they just need to get a few results. I mean, they've scrapped out a result tonight, deserved to win overall, I thought, the way the game was played, and we see how it goes from here. Now they've got the Chelsea game again, the cup. They want to win the cup match. They'll want to win the cup. Then they've got Southampton, I think, in the League Cup. But then they're into a run of games where I think they've got Spurs twice.
You've got United at Old Trafford straight away after.
United, and there's a couple of Spurs games coming up. But we might see them back on their game. There's obviously a little bit of pressure on a lot of the players. The manager won't be too happy. I'm sure he got stuck into them at half time tonight, and I wouldn't write them off in terms of getting on that run that we've seen before, where they can string 8, 9, 10 victories in a row together. But I think the two matches when they eventually play Arsenal are going to be critical to the outcome of the league, because Arsenal are in such fine form, and they drew it Newcastle the other night. They played well, they dominated the game. Newcastle are a good side. They're going to be there and thereabouts in terms of Champions League spots. So now you're going to drop points.
They didn't have a Riyad Mahrez and a Jack Grealish to bring off the bench.
Arsenal didn't. No, but they've got good players themselves. Arsenal, I don't think they've got the depth of the squad. I know a lot of people think they've a very strong squad, and they've got cover in the full back position, centre half position, but I'm not sure they have quite the good. I think Vieira and Nketiah has done quite well in the centre forward position. Vieira is the next one for the attacking positions if they lose one of the forward players.
Smith Rowe, if they can get him
Smith Rowe, if he gets back to full fitness. In the midfield, it's El Nani is the next one for the centre midfield position.
But they're not.
They're not of the level that Manchester
might
City
actually
have.
come on and be better than the guy.
But what's in Arsenal's favour is that they don't have the Champions League. They're battering away the Europa League. They were very comfortable in the group, and they were able to play very much a half and half team right through the group stages. They don't have that, and the cup competitions won't be as important to them. That's for sure. Whereas for Manchester City, the Champions League is the real ambition, I think. Anyway.
I was going to say, where are Chelsea? We know exactly where they are. They're 10th in the table. They're 10 points behind 4th. Covered their game at the weekend against Nottingham Forest, and they were incredibly flat, and it seemed like a strange game plan they had. Tonight was better, but even then when they were chasing the game again, there just seemed to be a lack of what is this team about, and what are they trying to do in an attacking sense?
Well, normally when Chelsea change the manager, it's at a time there's a bit of crisis. But that crisis is usually about that they're not first or second. At the moment, the crisis is they've drifted down the table. Will they change the manager again soon? Bowley, the new owner, said all the right things about the new manager when he was coming in. But most clubs do that as well. Always when the new manager comes in, they're talking him up and talking, well, we made the right decision here. This guy is the man that can fix our problems. Will they stick to that? Because the results, I think, league-wise before tonight was 4-3-3, so I think that makes it 4-3-4. 4 wins, 3 draws, 4 defeats since Graham Potter's come in. He's had 16 matches. They've done well in the Champions League. Now, I would have said that there's a lot of experimentation going on with shapes and positions of different players and personnel. That's the way managers come in, and you have to have a look at the squad when you get there, and you're learning about them as they play in the matches. But usually while that's been going on at Chelsea, the new manager has been able to manage to win games and get them back up in the table, or get them into contention to win a competition. Sometimes it was the Europa League or the League Cup or whatever it might be, and then the next season they're back in. It's not gone that well for Graham Potter, but you have to look at the injury list. And missing Kante, he's kind of been forgotten about now a bit, but he's been such a vital player for them for so long. We know how brilliant he was for Leicester, but he's been brilliant at Chelsea as well. He's a massive miss for them.
The two full-backs.
And I think the two... I mean, I wondered about why they went, and I think there is a scattergun approach to the signings. They signed a Cucurella on the basis of one good season at Brighton. Now, I wonder when Potter was at Brighton, I think he said, I'll tell you what, this is some money to be getting offered. I think the fee was 50 million.
Yeah.
They paid for a left-back that had one good season for Brighton. And you're going, is he really that good? I would have went... No, they have Chilwell is the best left back in the league. Maybe Robertson at his best to be close, Liverpool left back. But I would have thought he was so they signed another left back who can play a bit at centre half, but he's not brilliant at centre half. He's not great. So you're looking at that and saying, and Reece James on the other side, he contributes so much to them. He scores goals. He had that run last year where he scored 5 or 6 goals in a short period of games. But he's a very, very good, aggressive, young, hungry, gets back quickly. I think they're two big key players for them. They lost the 2 centre backs. Christensen went off, Zuma went off, or whatever happened there, where they wanted to go, or they saw the big lights in Spain, and big money as well because they were going on frees. That was poor management overall, I'd say, by the club that they lost them. And then the Werner and Lukaku one, where Lukaku gone back to Inter, got nothing out of him really bringing him back. Now they've let him go back again. Doesn't look like he wants to come back to them, but they've left themselves without a real centre forward. So it's like Potter needs time. What he did at Brighton, he didn't do that much better than Chris Hughton at Brighton in the first year or the second year. In fact, I think he won the same amount of matches that Chris won 9, I think, in his last year, and Potter won 9 in each of the next 2 years. He got a few more draws. It was the third season where he had started to build it to the sort of team he liked and the team he wanted with the players he wanted, and he started to get the best out of some of those signings, and the likes of Pascal Grote and McAllister and Cucurella, even when he was there, and he rejigged the centre halves, and Shane Duffy lost his place and different. But it took that time. Will he get that time at Chelsea? Chelsea have not been known for being patient at all under Abramovich. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes now.
From an Irish point of view this week, Evan Ferguson has, I think it's fair to say, got everybody a little bit excited. We've been talking about him for a long time. Everyone's known about the potential that is there. He came off the bench and he made his 2 appearances for Ireland, and I think Stephen Kenny said at the time it was worth doing because he felt the way the fixtures were going to go, maybe he might end up getting a bit of game time ahead of the March games, and he could come in quite useful. I don't know if anyone expected the 2 goals in a week, and the way that he got the 2 goals. What have you made of him, and how excited should we be?
Well, look, you have to go back to the start, and Keith Long was managing the team at Bows very, very well, and he was very astute in putting young players into the team, most of whom Bows seems to have sold in the last year or two. They're decorating all around the different levels and leagues in England. It's continued right up until today. Young Mullins went yesterday, but that one at the time was was kind of startling that he put a 14-year-old into the team against Chelsea in a friendly game, and everybody took notice of that. And Keith, as I said, I respect him highly. I respect him as a player. I signed him as a player, but respect him in his management, the work he did at Bows. Now I remember going, there's a reason for this. He wouldn't be doing this just to dress her up and hope they sell him on. He obviously thinks the boy has ability and could be in the team. And, I followed through on his background at that time and said, he's Barry Ferguson's son. I knew Barry well. Barry played in underage national teams. He played at the World Cup for us in Nigeria in 1999. Very good centre half and a very good lad. He works full time for the FAI as development officer. There's a great grounding there and great guidance, I'd say, but also a physicality. His dad is a big, tall lad. Comes steeped in a football family. His granddad would have played at a very good level. I think he would have been at Manchester United at one time as well. But Fergusons were a great football family. So he come from that environment, and he's got the physicality, guidance, technical ability, gets in early into teams, and was doing well in the underage international teams. I think the under-21s, I don't think he played much before the last game in the group when he got the headed goal in the last game, which was a powerful goal, a corner kick. And that kind of shook me a bit. I said, my God, he's jumped up from the under-17 age group straight to the 21s, he scores. And now they're starting to put him around the first team and he's on the bench. But this week, scoring against Arsenal, and then he scores again, and you're looking at him going, what a goal. What? But it was his all-round game, and the fact that a new manager, Zerbi, comes in and thinks he's good enough to start the team out. And it's not like Brighton have a load of injuries, and there's a load of players missing. There's one or two players missing, but there's not a lot of men in front of him. And it looks like he's going to get, a run the team now. Great potential, and I think a very steady background. Very down to earth, been impressed with his interviews. I'm not surprised he spoke very sensibly as well, and is a team player and understands it's not about him, it's about the team getting results.
And that's perfect for Brighton as well, because they've never been a team who've been reliant on a striker to score goals necessarily. Now, it looks as though he has goals in him, but actually if you're to be the front man in that Brighton team, you're going to have to be about work rate and holding the ball up and bringing
players into the game.
Into it,
well, it's been one of the weaknesses of Brighton that they had Maupay at one time. He was not quite good enough, scored enough goals. They signed Johanna Bash at one stage. Chris paid a good few bob for him. Got nothing back from him. Welbeck's been in around the team, not exactly prolific, although he's a very good player. So they've struggled for a main man and struggled to score lots of goals. But their all-round play has been quality, and they've been very good. Last year they were very good and finished well up the table. About eight last year, I think. But they, there'll be an opportunity there. Look, the most important players in football in the world are the goal scorers. We know that. We know that this week. We know that the World Cup. We know that ever through football. The rest of the game can be tough, but the hardest place to play is in the penalty area to score goals. And this lad looks like his real ability to play up there and to score goals.
How excited should we be then? Because in a way I often think when we talk about the next Robbie Keane or the next Damien Duff, it's almost disrespectful to how good they were and how high a level they were at that age. From the bits you've seen, should we be looking at him starting against France?
Well, I think that you got to look at what Stephen has done and some of the things he's done. I thought they were ill-judged in some of the decisions and reliance on the young players. I thought he went too far in trying to get results. I think the players have got to prove themselves in club football to a degree, balanced with what they've done in the underage teams before they should play in the senior team. Now, Nathan Collins has done that and deserves to be in there. Dara O'Shea had done that in the underage team, obviously at West Brom as well. Nathan Collins was doing it at Burnley. Go back to Aaron Connolly, and he did this at Brighton, got a couple of goals against Spurs. Brilliant, looked like a great prospect. Had scored some goals at underage international level, but had been a bit sporadic and unreliable, and not every manager liked him. And has proved to be the case that he hasn't had the consistency, and he's now trying to refine himself. It looks like he's going to Hull, but he's dropped off the mark a bit. Troy Barrett is another one who has been had a very good start, looked like he was the bee's knees. Marino urged caution in relation to him, although he was aware of his ability. They loaned him out. He's been a bit hit and miss on his loans, hasn't been a consistent goal scorer. Again, with the seniors national team, scored some goals against some of the weakest teams. Scored, I think it was in Dora, he got a couple of goals in. But
he got a good goal against Scotland.
He got a very good goal against Scotland and played very well. That was his best match. But, he's been a bit of a slow burner since then. And we've had that a bit. So I think you've got to be very careful with that. Importing young boys in, I think they need to be playing with experience. Needs to be experienced players. If you even look at Haaland tonight, who was a class player, unbelievable goal scoring record, Norwegian international, scores loads of goals, and he's playing against two experienced players tonight. Didn't do as well. Couple of half chances snatched at them, didn't score. Playing against better players, more experienced. That's what it's like at international level. You're playing against the best that every country. When we play against France, what will the centre back pairing be? Whoever it'll be a very experienced pair, or a very good pairing, quick on their feet. So that's going to be a big decision for Stephen to make. Who's going to play up front? Whether we're going to play two up front, whether it's going to be a 5-3-2 formation, what that pairing are going to be. But if he keeps playing as he is at the moment, remember that match isn't coming to March, he has to be very much in consideration. And then you might be comparing to what Robbie Keane was doing when he was 17, when he was scoring goals to beat the band in the championship. Right, at Wolves, and then he went on and continuously did it. Or what Damien was doing when he was playing in Blackburn's first team as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, regular in the Premier League. That they weren't just thrown in because they were doing well in the under 18s or under 19s. For me, they were playing in at the top level for the clubs. They were the best players. They were the players that the fans were coming to see to on a weekly basis, because they were doing, as many of the other players at that time, like Richard Dunn was playing regular in the first team, Steve McPhail, Barry Quinn was playing regular at Coventry in the Premier League in the first team. So that's the level. But just because fellas are playing in the first team or near the first team shouldn't mean that they're automatic for the international team. They've got to be doing it on a regular basis, on a consistent basis, I'd say, not just now and again, or not just in the Championship, or not just in League One, which is the third division. But he's playing for Brighton, who are a good side in the Premier League, so he has to be considered for a starting place, I'd say.
Great stuff, Brian.
Thank you. Pleasure, Nathan.